believe all of you have the sheet of paper which I handed out before the meeting began. On the front side of the page, you will find a series of questions which have already been answered. I request you not to read those questions. After I finish my speaking, I'd like you to please answer those questions on the back of the sheet in as brief as you like, or if you'd like to go into detail, I'll be more than happy. Instruction number 2, after the end of my speech, I request all of you to be very, very strong with your questions, but please refrain to only one question, not multiple questions from the same individual. Are you ready? Criminal case 14 QBD 273 BC. Tom Dudley and Edward Stephens, along with their shipmates Edwin Brooks and Richard Parker, were marooned on a raft after their ship, the Leonette, was destroyed in the storm. They had no food, they had no water, they had 2 cans of turnips. They fended off a shark attack. They somehow managed to capture a turtle and eat it. No rescue in sight. They lost all hope. Eventually, the weakest of the 4 of them, Richard Parker, gave in and finally drank seawater. He fell sick, he fell dehydrated, and after he fell into a coma, Dudley killed him. Over the next 1 week, the 3 of them drank his blood and ate his flesh. Once they were captured, once they were rescued, the judges did not see that as a necessary action for self-survival and sentenced them to death. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. Cannibalism is defined as the consumption or a part of flesh of the same species. When I ask people, what do you feel about cannibalism? What is your opinion? They find cannibalism disgusting, barbaric, gross, something despicable that should not be allowed. Yet, if you prod a little further, you ask them, why do you feel such a way? They don't have an answer. The reason is simple. It's because this is what society is for. And allow me to remind you that this is the same society that once upon a time believed that sati made sense. That it is perfectly okay to kill innocent people as collateral damage in war. That allows marital rape not to be considered as raping the Indian Constitution. What they did on that raft is necessary for survival. If they had not done that, they would not have survived to go back home and see their families. But here we have seen the perspective of those who succumb to cannibalism. Let's take the opinions of you and I, normal people. I hope there are no cannibalism. To us, it makes sense to fear. From a scientific point of view, it makes the same amount of sense as fearing a tiger or a lion in the jungle. Perfect sense at all. The fear that someday someone will kill us and eat us. The fact that these people may be roaming amongst us. When we step outside, a cannibal might cross our path. This makes perfect sense. However, a cannibal does not need to kill a person to consume them. Every single day, 150,000 people on this earth bleed. As you can donate organs to help other people, I believe it is possible for us to also donate our bodies after death, because after death, there's nothing that we can do. Let me give you a few examples where people have not killed but have still maintained their cannibalism. In 2002, 2 crematorium workers were released from the Colombian Provisional Court because they consumed bodies brought in by relatives. One day, the aeroplane carrying the Uruguay rugby team crashed into the Andes Mountains with extreme cold, no food, and no heat source. It was a very, very harsh condition. The survivors consumed the flesh of the other victims and tried to stay alive. After 72 days, were they rescued. The Fort tribe in Papua New Guinea believes that the consumption of their ancestors allows them to keep them inside of them and gives them wisdom through the ages. In none of these cases were people killed. The circumstances provided them with human flesh. Ladies and gentlemen, cannibalism is not bad. Cannibalism is not as evil as you like to think. There are people like you and I, only with a different preference. Some of you like a particular color, some of you like a particular dish. Their cuisine falls a little outside what some of us would call. Cannibals are people like you and me and everybody else around us. Only thing, they have a different taste. So, I open the floor to questions.
I'll start. Those two individuals, there were three people, right? So the first story, you made it clear that they have to survive. And to survive, they have to consume the third person. But in life, I feel there is always a choice. Three people could have got together, used their wits and done something so that they could have survived. I don't think that you need to kill a human being. Right? I feel it is still a barbaric act.
The question.
That's my question. I feel it's wrong. So your views.
Okay. Over here, we'd like to understand that in those cases that I mentioned, the Andes Mountain, the Uruguay rugby, and the first case with the near-miss crash, there was absolutely no other choice. When you're crashing the mountains, you do not find any life over there. In those situations, there is no bird, there is no animal that you can feed on. You had no other choice. So I feel that over there it is justified. In terms of the Mira, they were in the middle of the sea. They don't have a fishing rod, they cannot find fish. You don't find fishes swimming that close to the surface like you find in the river. It is very, very hard to find food. If you take a particular closer look at the case, you find that Richard Parker finally drank seawater because he had no other option. Left with nothing else to do. I'm pretty sure that it is very hard for them to kill their own shipmate and then consume his flesh, knowing that person is looking him right in the eye. If they had another option, they might do it. Next question. Yes, sir.
So every situation that you presented are extreme situations where people do not have any choice. So using that as an example, I feel it is wrong to say that cannibals are just like you and me with a different ways. It doesn't make sense.
Over there, I chose situations where it was perfectly sensible to lead cannibalism. However, let's take another particular case. Let's assume that I am a cannibal. I like the taste of human flesh. Now over here, I do not see what is wrong if I go ahead and eat the human flesh of another person who has absolutely no doubts about it. A dead person. No one lays claim on the body. A person who allows himself to be eaten after death. Between that person and me, I do not find how society would actually have a problem. This is my opinion.
So you're saying that it should be legalized?
It should be legalized. Now here I'd like to make a clarification. I am not saying we should allow the killing of people. Only the consumption of human flesh where there is consent from the other party and nobody is hurt. Any direct or indirect.
So you want meat to be like how we have mutton and chicken hung up in shops, you want to have human meat to be hung up in shops?
It does not necessarily be hung up in shops if it disturbs people. However, when you actually, if you go to a butcher shop, that is how it is done. But if you were to go to, let's say, football and you wanted to buy chicken, you don't find it.
So you want frozen meat, human meat within supermarkets?
If there are people who like to consume it, I do not see what is wrong. Yes.
Going by your belief that you just stated, all the instances you did not exceptions. He definitely did not give consent to his friends.
I do not hear the last one.
I said, you just said you believe that cannibalism should be allowed as long as the person at the other end consents to it, right? All the instances you gave definitely did not have any consent.
They were dead, so you can actually consent.
And
I know it's
drawing
cannibalism.
balance between marital rape and cannibalism has no connect at all.
Alright, so you see, I'll answer your question next. Your question is that in the situation that I mentioned, the people who consumed did not give their consent to be consumed after death.
Could be. So yeah, so
Yes.
it could be an exception to cannibalism as you say should be allowed.
Over there, I would agree.
In which case again it could be if it is legalized otherwise, this is an exception to the rule. And that's obviously different from what has been legalized. So it would still be criminal.
If I were to consider the word criminalized, let's take that it would assume that a person was being harmed in some form or the other. All the people who are participating there were dead. I don't see how it would fall under criminalization.
Are we drawing
I would
parallel?
love to answer your question next.
No, I basically don't believe in argument because what you're doing is just equating man to an animal. The only difference between an animal and man is man is and by just saying that given the pressures of the situation, circumstances, you are basically saying it's okay for man to become an animal. So you just destroy one of the key differentiators between an animal and a human being.
Would you ever like to believe that humans and animals are not that far apart? The difference between a human and an animal is that a human has the ability to fight its own instinct, while an animal will follow it till its grave. However, with all of that considered, I still do not see the argument where becoming an animal, where you're not harming anyone else, is wrong. The issue I have one question.
I have
How much time
two
do I
strong
have?
disagreements with you. One is your connect between marital rape and I have two strong disagreements. One is your connect between marital rape and cannibalism. First. Second is while the story is probably viable, your takeaway from the story that cannibalism is having a different stage and therefore it needs to be sold in supermarkets is not by any means acceptable.
Alright, I would agree with that.
How do you connect marital rape and
Over here, I'm considering the fact that society is okay with a lot of things that are actually bad. But this change happens only after a long period of time. Let's take the case of Sati that I mentioned. Sati changed only after the British did not allow it. It took a very long time for people to get past that, for them to actually see it's not. Today, if you ask anyone, if burning your wife after the husband has died is right, nobody will believe. Nobody will accept it. However, if you go, let's say 200, 300 years in the past, it is something that was. In the future, I feel that people will see the reason behind allowing cannibalism. Now, with your argument about how we should not, that it should be sold in supermarket, should not be sold in the supermarket, we can agree with that. If that change, that gradual acceptance of cannibalism is not something you can just throw into the public. However, by keeping track of cannibals and then supplying them in limited quantity, it might work. It is something that must be experimented first. Yes.
From your statement, marital rape is not accepted as a society anywhere.
Section 498 is.
So you still see cases of numerous people who come out in the open and who have an issue with it, only because there probably isn't any law against marital rape, but it is definitely not acceptable in society. So lightening it would definitely not.
Over here, I'm saying that cannibalism is something that people are against. Oh, I have to.
Except like marital
I agree. I apologize. What I meant was that people think that marital rape is okay, but it is not okay. Few people are there. Now, consider the larger public. The fact that it is not part of the Constitution does make it sound like people are okay with it. Some people are against it. That change is starting to become up. In terms of cannibalism, I hope that in time people will also accept. That was my argument. I believe I may have made a mistake when I spoke about it. Yes, last question.
I think the basic flaw is a person who is dead cannot or give his consent or not consent.
Alright, so over there.
I'm not done yet. So typically, if I want my body to be used for, say, for education purposes in a medical school, so I won't give the consent before I die. Similarly, unless I give consent for me to be eaten, then cannot be considered consent at all.
I agree with you perfectly there. In the examples that I mentioned earlier, consent could not be given under extremely harsh conditions which people need to survive. However, when we consider legalizing cannibalism, it is definitely important and allowed to consent. As you mentioned, like when we donate our organs, you have to fill out a form, you have to sign a card that says, I am okay with donating these organs after I die. Or if I am to give it for medical education, then you sign a form saying that my body should go for education after I die. The definitely please sign if my body is okay. With this, I believe I have already exceeded time in the question and answer session. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to take them at the break or after the meeting. Thank you very much for the wonderful audience. Back to us.